Hey everyone, my name is Malthus. We're going to be going through a review of the game Emberward. It's an early access, a tower defense game that uses Tetris pieces to make puzzles. It's a pretty interesting one, so please stick around. This game uses a series of difficulties, maps, and characters that are choosable to create a very wide selection of combinations that you can play in a roguelike tower defense game. I find the graphics to be quite pleasing. So they're very stylized, and obviously the colors are very graphic. We're going to give it a 7 out of 10. I believe that it stands out, but it's still got that little bit of generic feel to it. I think they're going to hopefully branch out a little bit. And as you see, as we go through all of the screens here and everything's pretty well laid out and looks pretty clear and easy to read. So that's always good. On the gameplay, as you can see, there's lots of different characters you can choose from. I've unlocked 4 of them. A lot of them are still under work, but more are going to be coming out hopefully. And there's a couple that I just haven't unlocked yet. Aside from that, there's going to be 4 different maps. There's currently 2. And the 2 that are there are pretty varied. The first one is like a forest setting with ominous lighting and has like a beast thing going on. The other one is a desert and it's more orcish. And there are like magic things in play and lava. And it's pretty great. Both of them have very unique boss fights. And I'm not going to show those because it's kind of spoilery, but they're great. So when it comes to gameplay, the game's going to get a 7 out of 10 just because of the fact that they're still building it. Overall, I think what they've got right now is very solid bones, but I wish that there was a little bit more depth. I mean that if we look at like the relics, if we look at the different towers, if we look at the talents, everything's pretty samey. You know, there's different things that affect the different elements, but then there's those mirrored on different elements. So increased lightning damage, increased poison damage, those things will be mirrored across multiple. And I'm sure we'll get more synergy as the game keeps moving, but for right now, we're going to roll with a 7. For the loop, as it is a tower defense game, and it's also built kind of like a Slay the Spire, we pretty much it lives or dies by the loop. Let's face it, if you can't play it over and over again, it's not going to work well. I will say, I have played a lot of hours of this game already. Probably going to stream it at some point. 8 out of 10. I don't get tired. The only thing I don't like, the build map is very long. It takes maybe 1.5 to 2 hours to do a full run. And I wish that they would tone that back to 45 minutes to an hour. Only because it would be more accessible and more casual. Now, if the way they have it is the way they want it, maybe it's just not to my liking personally. But I can't really see a reason to leave it as long as it is when you could dial it back just a little bit, cut 2 or 3 of the levels out, and you'd have about the same amount of depth with quite a bit more functionality. Like if I sit down and play, I'd like to be able to finish a full run instead of having to save halfway through. Music and the sound effects are all pretty good. It's maybe the weakest point in the game just because it's kind of generic. The towers all make their own noises, which is great. The monsters all kind of make their own grunts and groans when you hit them. The only problem I see is that it needs to be a little bit more punchy, and it needs to be a little bit more unique. So, yes, an arcane tower sounds like an arcane tower, but for some reason to me it just doesn't stand out. And it is a game that I am totally okay with turning the music off and listening to something else in the background. And generally that's a sign to me that there's something wrong with your sound design. Now, I'm just one person. You might love it. It's kind of like a chiptune fantasy kind of background music, you know. Some people like it, some people don't. We're going to give it a 6 out of 10 in that category. So it's still doing better than most games, honestly, because it's got sound effects for everything. I just wish they were a little bit more cohesive and a little bit more, like I said, punchy. So, like, I want to hear every single time an arcane missile hits somebody, a hammer smashing somebody, stuff like that. Now, the game hasn't been out that long, and they've been doing at least one update a month since they came out, and the community is fairly active, but it's pretty small. This is a pretty niche game. You got a like maze maker with tower defense and a roguelike. I mean, that's like 3 genres put together. So, viability takes a little bit of a hit. I think the studio, they seem very reliable. From everything I've read, they're very engaged. When people make posts and videos and stuff, they tend to respond, and I think they've even modified a few things in the game based on feedback so far. Aside from that, like I said, it's just that the community's a little small. So, viability, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Most likely, it's going to go to 1.0. I don't know how long it's going to take to get there, or how much they'll add until that point. The last category is going to be modding. I've gone through a lot of different guides, community notes, and patch updates. There have been no mentions of mods. However, that's not really unheard of when it comes to a roguelike or a tower defense. So it's just not something that's going to be getting bonus points this time. 0 out of... I mean, it's bonus points. It's not going to hurt them. Overall, they've got a pretty good score. They're getting a 35 out of 50, which is above 50%, which is what I look for in all my early access games. Which means that I personally believe that it is going the right direction and worth the money if you like this genre. If you like tower defense games, this has a lot of different variability, lots of different towers to play around with, although the roguelike version of it makes it a little bit more limited because you only get a certain number of towers per run. So if that's something that you don't like, I don't know, maybe wait for it to be on sale. And then on the roguelike end, it's got a lot of variability per run, but the maps are pretty much all the same. So once you do the desert 2 or 3 times, you're going to have seen all the maps. So you're going to know all the different maze layouts. And the only thing that's going to really change is going to be where the enemies spawn from, but there's only a set number of places that they can spawn from. As for the Tetris-y, mazy element, it's kind of cool. It's kind of a little puzzly, and as you can see right now, this red right here is lava, or it's sorry, it's not lava. It's like the bad guys' territory. If you build up to it, you can actually push it out and keep building. I didn't need to on this map, but you can. On a higher difficulty, you'd probably have to. And yeah, it's. I think it's worth getting if this is kind of your wheelhouse. But I think it's a little too niche for the average person right now, and I think that there's going to be quite a bit added to make it a better deal for the average gamer going forward. So I hope you enjoyed this review. We'll go through the scores one more time. Graphics of 7, gameplay of 7. The loop, they got an 8. Music is a 6. Viability is a 70%. That's a 70% chance of getting to 1.0. And then modability, 0 bonus points. Doesn't hurt it, but it also didn't help it at all. Okay, I hope you all have a great time. I'm going to be looking for another game. If you have any suggestions, hit me up. Also, if you enjoy these videos, a like and a subscribe would really help the channel. And if you like this kind of content, you can always suggest games for me to review. And if I can get the go-ahead from the boss, I might buy one. But aside from that, we stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Currently, we're playing Solasta at 9 p.m. Central. So if you're into D&D, come hang out. We have a pretty good group, and it's a pretty good time. So I hope you all have a great night. Mouth us out.